This is going to be Dreams into Dollars, and we're going to talk about marketing, for EFT and other things. We're going to talk about generalized, if you will, marketing concepts, but we'll probably be focusing a little bit on how to market EFT, how to market the professional therapeutic practice, if you will, the healing practice, and so on and so forth. That'll probably be a focus on it. One of the things I want to mention, though, is when we talk about marketing, we use some naughty words. We say things like sales and selling, okay? And to some, those are loaded words. And in my experience in the therapeutic community, they tend to be a little loaded. There are some self-talk or some beliefs go along, and we'll probably talk about this some in the Palace of Possibilities presentation, but there's some beliefs that go along, that those who are in, I can't be a good therapist if I'm always chasing money, and the term salesman or salesperson or et cetera is sort of a loaded term. It's like, oh, we're chasing money here, and that's kind of contrary to the built-in beliefs in the healing practices. It's something like I had this years ago. I was doing a workshop called How to Drive Your Own Bus, which is actually kind of a forerunner to the Palace of Possibilities. And in one of the breaks, a fellow came up to me and he said, "Gary," he says, "I really like what you're talking about here, but you talk about the money and everything and how to, develop your own thoughts or to be towards abundance and all of that." And he says, "But you don't talk to people about the consequences of that." Was I about to hear a belief? And I said, "Well, what do you mean by consequences? What consequences?" He says, "Well," he said, "what you don't know about me, Gary, is I'm an ex-priest." Okay, this fellow's name was Paul, by the way. Isn't that a great name for an ex-priest? He says, I'm an ex-priest, and he said, "There's the consequences for earning too much money." I says, "Really? Well, what are they?" And he says, "Well, did you ever hear the phrase, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get into heaven?" Well, I had heard that. And I said, "Yes. Yeah, I've heard that." But also what I'm hearing, though, is his beliefs about money, okay? I'm not saying he's right or wrong. This is not a religious kind of thing we're talking about. It has to do with beliefs, okay? And I said, "Well, okay, I'm curious about something. How much money do I have to earn before I will not be allowed into the kingdom of heaven?" Okay? And I thought he was going to pause for a minute. I thought he was going to give some reflection on that, because I thought I was making a point with a question. You know what he said to me? He said, $30,000. Well, now this was a few years ago. Of course, but he said, $30,000. 32 now, huh?
Is that American or Canadian dollars?
American or Canadian, I don't know. So I thought, well, okay, we didn't budge him there, And so I said, well, okay. Now I earn a lot more than $30,000. I earn several times that. Okay? Does that mean I'm not going to get in the kingdom of heaven? And he says, no. He says, you do good things with your money. Don't you? I says, how do you know what I do? They have no idea what I do with my money, He says, well, I'm sure you do, okay? And then I said, well, okay, so if you earn $31,000, you're not going to get in the kingdom of heaven. And then he starts to back up as, well, yeah, I understand. So, but it took me a little while to get beyond that, because my point on this is, here is somebody that came from a calling, if you will, that had some built-in beliefs about money, okay? And if anybody, he actually articulated, if anybody earns more than $30,000 a year, they're not going to get into the kingdom of heaven, and he actually had that belief. He had that emotional belief, and he articulated with logic, but you can get behind the logic pretty quick, and so on, and we did a little bit. But I point that out because it is not unusual for people in the healing practices to come from some area of that, because healers and people in the spiritual professions and so on, so or something like that. If you go earn too much money, you're not being spiritual. If you earn too much money, you're not a good healer, etc. To the extent That may be lodged somewhere within your belief system. I'm probably going to violate it some because I'm actually going to use the term marketing and sales and selling just like you like the term, okay? It's one of those things that we do. And I don't care what you are doing, whether you call it sales or not in your practices, that is exactly what you're doing. You may use a different term for it. But in order to get people in the door to come and even do with you, you must market yourself in some fashion. You must sell yourself in some fashion, even though you may not call it selling. You have to convince them somehow that you are a competent person, that you're an understanding person, that you're someone that can help them. And that's all marketing. You just don't call it that. Okay? So we're gonna develop here some interesting marketing techniques. Another thing I want to point out before we go too much farther here, let me get to my next page, see where I am. Yeah. One of the things about marketing and selling that I think is an inappropriate perception is that the stereotype to marketing and sales is given like you somehow or other have to fool somebody or trick somebody. You somehow have to be the glad hander, somebody who will have a lot of glitz involved in your advertising, for example, and be clever and all of that in order to be a good marketer. And some of that comes from the fact that these TV ads you see, are quite, some of them are really insulting if you'll think about it. They have little frogs out there selling beer and whatever, okay? And they're a little insulting to the intelligence sometimes. That, by the way, is a unique form of marketing, which is simply name brand recognition. Is repetition and emotion, repetition and emotion, repetition and emotion. You keep getting a name brand in front of you. That's what they're trying to do with that. They're trying to associate, their brand of whatever with something that you want to buy. They keep getting a name in front of you, a name in front of you, a name in front of you, and so on. That's different than what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is the antithesis, at least of the stereotype of this. We're talking about genuine, loving ways to make your point, okay? That's what the marketing is here. It's a loving, genuine way to make your point. We don't need the glitz. We don't need all of that. In fact, that is actually in the way. I want to read something to you here. This came from a book that I saw years ago. Actually, what I saw was an advertisement for the book. This was 1970. And it's one of these full-page ads. And the title on the ad, I remember it very well, was The Lazy Man's Way to Riches. That was the title. That was the interest getter, if you will. And then it had an interesting subtitle, which really sucked me in, okay? And it said this: most people are too busy earning a living to make any money. And I thought about that for a minute. I said, there's a lot of truth to that. So I started reading this, and the whole thing, the beautiful thing about this is it was a very loving ad. What he was really doing was talking about how he had a book to sell, okay? And it was a $10 book, which was a big-time price, by the way, for a book in 1970, which is paperback. It may not seem like much now, but it was a little paperback book, quarter of an inch, 3/8 of an inch thick, something like that. But for $10, but he said, he was very believable. He said, look, this book is going to cost me 50 cents to produce, and you're going to pay $10 for it. That's 20 times my investment. But it's going to mean a lot more to you for these reasons, okay? He was very honest with me. The nice thing about it, he was very honest and very straightforward. Everything he said was very believable. Important phrase, okay? So I bought the book. And in it, he's talking about effective advertising. And he talks about he puts the following ad here for me to read, okay? Let me read this to you, okay? Dear Betty, I love you very much. I want to take care of you and our kids for the rest of your lives. His wife's name is Betty, by the way. His name is Joe Carbo. There'll be good times and bad, but I'll try to do my best with what I've got. From time to time, I'll probably exasperate or annoy you, but I promise that you'll never be bored. I read somewhere that the contract for marriage is the only one that doesn't have a definite term, a point at which it ends or can be renewed. It just says, till death do us part. Well, I want you to know that, in our case, I'm satisfied with that arrangement. But to be perfectly honest, I sometimes wish that we weren't married, so we'd both know every day that we were sharing our lives because we wanted to, not because we had to. All my love, Joe. Okay? Now, was that an ad? Is it or isn't it? I see a couple of nodded heads. Let's use, I see Margot's nodding her head. That's an ad. Okay? Why do you, is it a standard ad?
No.
Okay. But why do you consider it an ad? Because I said it was an ad, perhaps, but...
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have thought about that. But I was also thinking it's wedding vows, but so then I'm thinking, well, what are wedding vows? But in fact, ads, although you're saying it after you've already gotten, what you wanted. But
yeah, he's already made his sale, by the way.
Yeah, he's made a sale. He's saying what he has to offer and what it's going to cost.
Mm-hmm. Given some benefits in there.
Right.
Is he sincere?
Oh, I mean, I hope so, but I assume so.
Yeah.
Certainly
Well, you really, is he believable?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. How do you like the headline for the ad? Let me read the headline again,
Yeah,
okay?
do.
Dear Betty.
Yeah.
See, that headline wouldn't mean much to anybody except Betty. Okay? Betty loves the headline. But if you're not Betty, well, okay. See, when you put an ad in, we're going to talk about ads a little bit later, but the headline needs to speak to the person that it's aimed at. It won't speak to everybody. It needs to speak to whoever you're aiming it at, you see? It's very sincere. He makes promises that he intends to keep, and so on, okay? Now, I'll read on in this little book of his after this. He says this, you're saying that's no ad, that's a love letter. Well, every ad should be a love letter, a personal communication. And let's see if this one contains the basic elements. You may not like the headline, Dear Betty, but my wife will be crazy about it. It has her name in it. It's directed to her, and that's the secret of a good headline. The person reading it, the one you're trying to reach, should say, hey, he's talking to me. The subhead, I love you very much, isn't bad either. Okay. I've told her that she's a very important person, a great human being, and that I care about her. And this copy goes on. We will talk more about ads later on. But what I wanted to point out was you can be a very effective marketer, if you will, with sincerity, and you don't need all the glitz that is commonly put together. That's what we're going to really develop here today. Now, I want to go along just one more second. I want to give you one other ad that Joe Carbo put out here, and I want to read this to you, too, okay? What this fellow did was he had a car. He was going to go to school and he had to sell his car, so he put this ad on. He put it in people's mailboxes. Okay. It says this: I have a new Cadillac, and by the way, Cadillac is misspelled, C-A-D-D-I-L-A-C. I have a new Cadillac that I got to sell because I'm leaving for the service next week. Sorry, he's going to the Army, not school. It cost me $34,000 and only has 732 miles on it. Rather than sell it to some thief of a car dealer or going to the trouble of advertising, I'll let you have it for $24,000. If you don't have the cash, don't worry about it because I only owe the $24,000 and you can take over my payments, which are about $397 a month. You know, I drive careful, but I'd feel better if you'd have your mechanic check it out before you buy. In fact, if you'd like to drive it for a couple of days, I'll be glad to deliver it to you with a full tank of gas. And if you don't like the car, I'll take it back and you've had a free ride, no obligation. One thing, it's an awful green color, but you could have it painted. If you're interested, call me at so-and-so number between 7 and 9 tonight. Your friend, Roger Atbury. Is that a good ad? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Who said yes back here? You said yes. We need a microphone for my yes lady. Why is it a good ad?
Because I did the same thing for my Cadillac.
Oh, okay. That's why it's a good ad, of course.
I gave the car to the person who wanted to buy. I said, use for a couple of days, and if you're happy, give me the money.
Yes. Okay.
I said, if you don't bring the car back, then I'm going to call the police and say you stole it.
All right. Who else thought it was a good ad? Go ahead. Back here to Don, if we could. Wait.
This guy's my friend. He wants to be a friend.
Yeah.
And he's going to follow through.
Is he sincere?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he
Do you
is.
believe him?
Yes.
What is one of the reasons you believe him, or any reason you believe him?
He's talking to me. He says, if you don't like it, bring it back, and I'll give you a full tank of gas. Keep it a couple days, see how you like it. Even have your mechanic check it out.
Yeah.
So he's entrusting me with a lot of decision-making.
He's doing exactly that. He also did something else in that ad which will tend to get your belief. Who can remember what that was, or who would like to expect that? Go back here to Maxine if we could.
He was entrusting the car to the person instead of the shyster car dealer.
Yes, instead of a thief of a car dealer.
Okay.
Yes. By the way, did you like his grammar? It says here, I have a new Cadillac that I got to sell because I'm leaving for the service. Okay, he goes on here and says, you know I drive careful, etc. Okay, is that good English? No. No. Does it add to the believability of the ad, however? Okay, it takes any slickness away, doesn't it, so to speak? But there's something else that went on in this ad that allows even more believability, or adds to believability. Go back, go here.
It struck me that the color is a small thing,
Yes.
but the color
He said
is
it's what did he say?
terrible color, green or whatever. it
Yeah,
was.
one thing, it's an awful green color, but you could have it painted.
could paint it.
See, he's very honest about it.
Yeah,
It's an
very
awful, he's
sincere.
very honest. And see, when somebody comes up and says, you know, I have this thing I want to sell, however they say that, and they tell you right up front what's wrong with it,
Yeah.
your believability level goes up
Right.
substantially.
They just give you the positives, the things that are good about it.
They tend to, yeah. And so that waters down your believability a
Yeah.
little bit, doesn't
Yeah.
it? I mean,
Yeah.
you're at least cautious.
Right.
Doesn't mean you won't buy the thing, because a lot of ads just tell you it's good, 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 good. One of the errors I made early on with EFT was that I would go off and say, you know, the good practitioner here can get 90% plus results. Well, true statement, I think. True statement. There are a number of people that get that. It depends on what you depending on what you call success and so on and so forth. I mean, there's a debatable area, but that was not believable to many people. It was just simply not believable, and so it turned them off. The introductory tape that I showed you, you know, on our EFT thing yesterday, wasn't that way to begin with. My very first version of that didn't have 4 fairly fleshed out sessions. It had 30 or 35 people in an infomercial type fashion saying, oh, I got over this and this was wonderful, blah, 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 real quick, okay? And I thought, well, we'll just impress people so much with how many things it does with real people, et cetera. But the feedback I got consistently was, it's not believable. I show it to my clients, I show it to prospective therapists to come to my workshop, and it's not believable. Okay? Too much, too good to be true. Okay? So if you'll notice, one of the things that I did with this last one was I made it shorter, but I also said at the very end of it, if you recall, I said something like, we've shown you our success stories here, because we want to show you, you know, how EFT unfolds for people, but not everybody gets these results. Okay? Same kind of thing, like it's a yucky green color or whatever this thing said here, okay? I'm telling them a weakness about it. Not everybody gets the results. Newcomers get 50% and the really proficient get over 80. That's a true statement and underplayed as far as I'm concerned. But it was much more believable, wasn't it? Much more believable. So what you really need to do is do quite the opposite to market, you know, like a therapy practice or something like that. Quite the opposite of what the perception of good marketing is. The perception is you got to be slick and, you know, have brochures that have a lot of white space in them and all this stuff that goes on. And in fact, that stuff can be a turnoff and you're wasting your money if you want to be a really true marketer. Now, a few things that we need if we're going to be successful in marketing. First thing is we need a validly priced product. And of course, we're going to use EFT as our example here because that's something we're all familiar with at this point. Now, EFT is put out in videotape form. At least my course is put out in videotape form. Is it a validly priced product? Now, here's what I see a couple nodded heads, but I want to get behind that a little bit. And I'm going to need the microphone for some people. What I want to do is I want to talk with any therapist here who uses EFT, charges so much an hour. There's a lot of you, but anybody raise your hand or do that. Okay, right here with Chris, okay? Right here with Chris, okay? Now, what do you charge an hour, can I ask you?
$70
Okay, this is Australian dollars.
Australian dollars.
Okay, okay. So you charge $70 an hour, okay? Is it worth it?
Yeah. It is. It's worth it to come and see me. Yeah,
Okay.
Sure.
But why is it worth it?
because people feel better at the end of the session,
Yeah.
and they can actually feel the difference.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. Let me say it to you a little bit differently. Say somebody comes to you with a lifelong fear of heights, and it has inhibited their entire life. They don't go anything near high. Any parties that are up high, they don't go to. They don't go mountain climbing with their friends. They don't go into downtown. They go to high building. It limits their life and has for years.
Yes.
Okay? And in one session, for 70 Australian dollars, you take care of it. This kind of thing happens, does it?
Well, not completely, but I'd be do some aspects in 1 hour. I'd be able to do some aspects of that,
Okay.
but not the complete thing.
Okay. In some cases, you can do the complete thing, but whether it's one session or 2 sessions or 3 sessions,
Yeah, 2 or
Okay.
3 sessions. Yeah,
for which you charge 140 or 210 Australian dollars.
that's it. Yeah.
Okay. What do you suppose that is worth to the person that no longer has their height phobia?
Oh, it's immeasurable because it takes so many restraints off all their coping things they've had to have in their life.
Yeah.
They don't have to have them anymore. So it's actually worth thousands to them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What if
really.
they? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, but I mean, I say that to them. You know, I say this is going to be wonderful now because now you will be able to have the freedom to go over bridges, go to another state, fly, all those things because they're all a little bit interconnected.
Yeah, sure.
And they don't actually realise how much they can't do until they can do something, and then they realise what they couldn't do.
Yes.
So it's valuable to them.
Yeah, the person that has had a lifelong trauma, war-related trauma, rape-related, something like that, that things haunts them all the time, and you take care of it in a session or 2 or 3 or whatever it happens to take, sometimes even a few minutes. However long it takes, what's it worth? What's it worth for a war veteran not to have their nightmares anymore?
Well, that's immeasurable as well. I've done some Vietnam vets like you have,
Uh-huh.
and they just cry with relief, and they just say, "This, I just bless you every day." You
Yeah.
know, they'll say, "I'll pray for you," and all that, and that's lovely. You know, I mean,
Sure.
I think I'm worth more, but that's the market price
Yeah.
in Melbourne is $70.
Well, okay, yes, thank you. Let me get to 2 issues, if I may, on
Yes.
that. That is your perception of the market price. That is what everybody else charges,
Yes,
typically. So you're somewhere in the ballpark there.
Yes.
So when people will come to you, you're charging like what everybody else charges.
I'm in the top 10%. Yeah,
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so that's the going rate, so to speak.
so to speak.
Okay. I wonder what would happen if instead of charging by the hour, you charged by the result.
That's something I'm thinking of doing.
Well, think some more.
Okay. Yes.
Let me ask you this. A corporate executive, a vice president of the ABC company, who has the fear of public speaking, okay, is he financially limited in what he's going to do? I mean, he goes around the country, he's supposed to sit there and talk, and his ability, he gets up and does it anyway, but he's just frightened every time, and his heart's jumps up in his throat and all this kind of stuff. Can he be a lot more effective if he had a session or 2 for his fear of public speaking with EFT? Yes or no? Yeah. Give the microphone here to Tom, could you? I'm going to have a discussion with you, Tom, may I?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm this corporate executive, and I come in and say, you know, I've got to go, I got to talk every week, and every time I do like that, and I don't come across very well, and I know I lose some of our business because I look like an oaf up here, and I just feel really stupid and all that kind of stuff. Can you help me? Okay. And so you help me. Do you have any concept of what that's worth in dollars and cents terms?
To the business? To your business or my business?
To me, to my
you.
business.
No.
Okay.
I could venture a guess, and I'm sure that I'd be way off the mark.
All right.
Because I came from corporate America.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm talking about the corporate executive who's a corporate executive in a New York Stock Exchange listed company, you know, and I mean, when it's a vice president, when they go out and they speak, they're trying to gather business and new clients.
One speech for that man's worth a couple of $1,000.
Well, or 200,000 or 2 million.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Because sometimes just to land one account for a size that big, one account for a corporation,
Yeah.
can mean anywhere from $100 million to $1 billion. I mean, it's huge. It's huge, okay? And so you take care of it and you charge him $100. You've missed it a little bit. Well, but I'm not saying you need to change your fee structure.
No,
that is
I
not
understand
the
exactly
point I'm
what you're
making
saying.
here.
Yeah.
What point I'm making is, in order to be successful in marketing, you need a validly priced product. That is, you need to deliver at least as much as you charge, or a lot more, over-deliver. And with EFT, you can do that, because when you do this, I mean, let me ask you a question. How many of your clients that have a successful success with you, that is, they're over whatever some issue is, came out, how many of them would give you the money back they paid to you, excuse me, how many would say, give me back the money I paid to you and I'll give you back my result? How many?
Not one.
Not one.
Not one.
It wouldn't come close.
Nope.
Whatever they paid you, $300, $200, $2,000 or whatever their benefit was, they're not about to make that trade back.
Nope.
Okay. So you have, my point is, we need a product that is validly priced, and the way people price EFT or any of the other energy processes, we are way underpriced. I should say it differently. We are delivering real quality for the money involved.
Yeah, we're over-delivering.
We're over-delivering.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you have to go change your fee structure. That's going to be up to you and everything else. But I do want to point out that you have built in here automatically a product that delivers far, 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 far more than people pay for it. Okay? Far more. And that is one of the criteria for having a successful business. Back here, if we can. We have a, wait, yep. You have to wait for the microphone, though.
Let's say you charge $5,000 for the course,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes longer. So you're a loser.
You charge $5,000.
Dollars for you to be healthy, right? The EFT.
Uh-huh.
You said.
Okay, now wait. I'm the client, and you charge me $5,000?
You're the client, and
Uh-huh.
I said, okay, as long as you get healthy, $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if it takes longer?
Okay.
Then you're a loser.
Who's the loser?
You. Me.
You the
Me, the
therapist.
loser. I'm the therapist, the loser, and you're a winner because you keep on coming and coming, always with an excuse, and I gotta make you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes. Okay. And see that's we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but let me respond anyway, because
I'm sorry if I
no,
said-
that's okay. That's okay. Because it fits nicely. So you say to somebody, let's say you were to say, I'll tell you what, I'm going to charge by the result here. I'm going to charge you $1,000 to get over your fear of public speaking. Okay? Now, to the corporate executive, easy to do. If you can really do that, I'll pay you $1,000. You could probably get $5,000 or something, okay? But I'm just going to use that for easy to do. I'm going to pay $1,000. Now if you just paid them, so much an hour, or charge so much an hour for your session, you're going to make $100 or $200 or whatever you charge, however long it takes to do that. But when you do that, when you make that arrangement with them, you need to define what that means to them, okay? Because otherwise this stuff can go on and on and on. As you know, we can daisy chain into all kinds of things. And so I say, well, what would that mean to you? How would you know? What would you be satisfied with? For success in the fear of public speaking. Person may well say, oh, if my chest will just stop, my heart will just stop pounding out of my chest. If I can just get my heart to stop, then I can do the rest, okay? Well, the chances are you're going to be able to stop that heart, okay? Now, you may not be able to help them with the rest of their public speaking, because that's also a skill they have to learn, or at least you're not going to do that in 1 or 2 sessions or something. But you can have an agreement with them that says, as long as the throat doesn't constrict and the heart doesn't pound or whatever, when you get up to public speak, then we're successful, $1,000, okay? So you have to define it well. Otherwise, it will go off like you're talking about, and you'll be going on forever. Wait, yeah.
Because it's the public speaking. He wants to speak publicly.
Yes.
Okay, the heart stopped, but then my stomach hurts.
Yeah, but see, yeah. But between the two of you,
Hands gonna shake.
Yeah, but between the two of you, you agreed on that
Just
stuff.
the
Now,
heart.
what you can also do
And
though,
sign it
yeah,
then.
yeah. What you can also do though is if they happen to have a stomach thing come up they hadn't had before, well, you throw that in. That's okay. What I'm talking about, because that would still be getting rid of the fear of public speaking. Okay, that's some physical thing that's in their way of public speaking. What I'm talking about is not actually signing up with this client for an unending thing of stuff that just seems to daisy chain and go on. Well, you know, when I'm up there, I'm really thinking about. This is after he no longer has the stomach thing and the heart thing and all that.
And starts
He's
shaking.
calm up there. He doesn't shake. But he gets up there and he says, well, I'm not a very good speaker because I keep thinking my mother that says, well, you know, a little boy should be seen and not heard. Okay? Well, that's a different issue. Okay, that's the kind of daisy chain. And you don't want to get stuck into that for the same price forever. So you have to define what it is that you're going to take care of them for. And once you've defined that, you take care of it, then you can keep going if you want to do that. Okay? Clear? Good question. Thank you. So anyway, you need a validly priced product. You also need to have what I call product congruence. Now, that's a term that really needs definition. And I would like to have anybody just volunteer what congruence means to you. Just somebody raise their hand. Who's going to raise their hand? Right here. Tom. What does congruence mean to you?
Congruence to me means walking the walk and talking the talk, doing what I say I'm going to do and delivering what I say I'm going to deliver.
Yeah, sure. That's right.
So product congruence, because here's my product, this is what it can do, and it can deliver.
Yes. Okay. Anybody else have a definition? Thank you. Anybody else have a definition? Please. Anybody. Just whatever comes up for you. Congruence.
In sync.
Well, here we go. Here we go. Wait. We're gonna get a microphone for you.
I'm thinking of synchronization.
Okay.
in sync.
And what does that
So
mean? Synchronization.
What you're promising matches what the end result of that
Sure. Okay.
activity is.
All right. All right. Okay. Anybody else? What comes up for you? Did you have somebody else raise their hand? Got another one. Okay.
Does my service fit the need?
Does my service fit the need?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does what I say I
Sure.
can deliver fit the need of the person that's asking?
Yes. Okay. And back here, was there something back here? Yes or no?
I don't know, when I think of it, I think in terms of qualitative value.
Mm-hmm.
If something's congruent, that means it's equal and same. If I was to put it on a scale of checks and balances, that it would even out and balance itself.
Sure. Okay, good. Thank you. One of the things I thought you were going to say, and you did not, which is okay, is you say we need to believe in your product. Okay? That's what product congruence means, and that's what it means to a lot of people. You need to believe in your product. And actually, the comments I heard pretty much touched on what I wanted to say, but I'm going to say it in my way, if I may. It isn't so much belief in your product, although that's a part of it. It's a thorough understanding of what it will do and won't do, okay? And that you are very congruent about that. Let me give you an example. When I was first starting in the business world, I was in my later 20s. I was in the life insurance business, okay? And so, you know, I knew what life insurance would do. Somebody dies, money comes in the door, which has a lot of different uses. Okay? That's pretty clear. However, as I would go around and talk with my clients, they would say to me, well, or my prospective clients, well, Gary, I don't know, you know, life insurance isn't a very good investment, they would say. And so my take on it there was, well, okay, what I have to do now is make it a good investment, because I'm hearing this objection from them. It is not a good investment, so I've got to somehow or other romance it or see if I can't make it a good investment, okay? So I went through lots of charts, and I had ways to talk about what it was as an investment and so on, and it did have some investment type features, although they weren't really glaring and all that, glowing. But what I was trying to do, I was not being congruent with my product. I was trying to make my product fit within what I wanted it to do, okay? And I wasn't really being clear about it with myself. And so, because I was not totally congruent within myself, because I knew at some level, and it's not really a good, it's not, for example, it's not even designed to be an investment in the first place, okay? That's not even what its design is. But I was trying in my own mind to say, well, it is an investment. I was trying to manufacture that, if you will. And there was some argument for it, but it wasn't a very strong one, and I knew that, and I was not congruent about my product. Okay? And that would show up when I was trying to make sales, because I just wasn't quite, you know, you radiate your own thoughts, your own beliefs, et cetera, and your own congruence. You radiate that. People pick it up. They get your sense of you know, how sound you are about what you're talking about. Okay? And so I wasn't very congruent about it. It was only after I became congruent and let go of the investment thing, I finally got to the point, well, if you want to invest your money, go do it. Go do it, whatever you want to invest it in. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about other benefits that we have. And I'd be very congruent with it, and all of a sudden my sales shot up pretty well. That was along with some other things I did with the Palace of Possibilities, which will come out in that presentation. But congruence is very important. It's very important for you. Now, you have varying experiences with EFT. I need the thing a second. Come over here to Jim, would you please? I'm just going to ask you a question, Jim. Jim. This is not. Are you Jim? No. How long have you been using EFT? Are you brand new at it? Or
3 months.
3 months.
Yes.
Okay. What will it do? Now, I'm asking you from your perception. I don't want you to tell me what everybody else says it will do.
What have I done with it?
I want to know, in your experience, what will EFT do?
I've dealt with pain, I've dealt with phobias, and I've dealt with allergies.
Okay, and with what kind of success?
The pain has been the least success because it comes back, and the other one's 95% successful.
Okay. However you define success, by the way.
Completely successful.
Well, okay. We could have a debate on what that really means this time, and I'm not really debating it at this point.
Okay.
I'm trying to get the point of congruence, okay? But when you come to pain, okay, now, I have the same experience. And to me, when the pain, pain will subside when it comes back. It's not because EFT didn't work. This is my own take on this. Is my own congruence, okay? It may not be yours, but it comes from my experience. That's really evidence that there's other emotional issues showing up in that particular place in the body, so the shoulder still hurts, okay? Because it comes back. We took care of some emotional issue, but now here's another one, and it's showing up, in the pain. So that's why the pain comes back. That is my view of it. Now, to be congruent about that, when I talk to somebody, this is sort of like saying the car is an awful green color. I'll say, we get some pretty good results from this, but when you get down to pain, some of the stuff we do is jaw-dropping, but boy, I can't tell you we're going to take care of it, Sometimes yeah, sometimes no. Okay. Is that being congruent?
Yes.
It's very congruent.
Very. That's what my truth is.
I don't have the sense of I've got to somehow tell them that it's going to do something maybe that it won't do, because other people are claiming it does that well. Okay? You'll find lots of people that claim things, about this procedure and other procedures like it, I call their cousins, that make all kinds of claims, and whether they're right or not, I don't know. But see, you need to be congruent within yourself. Now, let me ask you this. You ever dealt with ADD, with EFT?
No.
Never have?
No.
Does it work on ADD or not?
I don't have any personal experience on it.
Okay. So I'm a client and I come to you and say, I've got ADD. Can you help me?
I can try. Let's see what happens.
Well, how are you going to do it?
I'm going to ask them a couple of questions and start tapping.
No, I'm the client. I'm going to ask you, what makes you think you can help me?
Because I've helped people in the past with other emotional problems.
Oh, okay, but not necessarily ADD.
No.
Okay. What I might do is come straight out and say, I've never dealt with ADD. I don't have a clue whether I can help you or not. Now, we have this other technique that I've had some great results with, but not with ADD. You want to try it? There's a difference in congruence. You see what I mean? Okay. And it's really important. It's really important because when you come from a deep-centered place of congruence, you're unmovable. Okay. One of the things that I will tell you is when you talk to me about EFT, I'm immovable. Am I congruent about it? Yes or no? Yes, very congruent, okay? Because I know what it will do and won't do, at least in my experience, okay? And I will come from my experience, not what others say it's supposed to do or what other forms of this technique say that will do, etc. I know what I've done with it, and I know what the percentages are, and so on and so forth. That's where I come from, okay? Very important. You need to have product congruence. Now, I'm going to pick somebody else back here. Okay, go here. Microphone back here. Sorry, just to put the microphone in your face, but I'm going to ask you a question you haven't asked before. Okay.
Okay.
How long have you been using EFT?
Not used it.
Oh, you haven't used it.
Never used it.
Okay, then I'm not going to ask you this question. Who has used it? John. Okay. All right. John. Who could not use EFT?
I haven't found anyone that could not benefit from it. Now, if someone calls me, as I discussed with you the other day, I had a woman who worked in a hospital setting that had a major fear of vomit, the possibility that someone might vomit. She was so fearful of it that she could not consider the possibility of having children.
Because they vomit.
Because they get sick, yes. So I proceeded by asking her some more questions while on the phone, and then I said, I believe I can help you. But I did not come right out to begin with and just say, oh yes, as a blanket, I can do it. But I asked her some more questions about the issues and what happened, and I said, I believe I can, and was successful in dealing with her. So I always, when someone asks me about something I have not done, I ask questions about it. I state my experience and my belief system in whether or not I can help them.
Okay. And you need to come across congruent, okay? And which you do. Getting back to my original question on that was, you could not think of anyone who could not benefit from EFT? Okay. Okay. Over here if we can. Where's our mic runner? Let me ask Gary Van here if I can. In your experience, is there anybody who cannot benefit from EFT?
I have had people that have not been able to benefit.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yes, I have.
Okay. And pick out one of them and give me an example.
Well, you mentioned ADD, and also cigarette smokers. I find that cigarette smoking is a very tough habit to break, and EFT has tremendous results in reducing craving at the given time. But because it's such a powerful nicotine addiction, that people have to be extremely persistent, and sometimes they don't succeed in completely getting rid of their addiction with using EFT.
Sure. I have the same result. And to me, you have to get under the drivers, the emotional things that drive the need to smoke the cigarette, eat excess food, and so on. However, if I may make a point, that person did benefit from EFT in that they learned a way to reduce their cravings.
They learned a way to reduce the craving and subsequent anxiety.
Okay. And chances are, if they had a trauma of some kind, which is not cigarette related, you could take care of it probably?
Yes.
Okay.
Which, yeah.
I feel almost like I'm putting words in your mouth. I don't mean to do that. What I was hearing when you were talking about it was there was an issue that a person didn't get beyond cigarette smoking, for example, or ADD, for example. That doesn't mean the person couldn't use it in some fashion, somewhere in their lives. Although ADD is not one of our 1 minute wonders. Breaking addictions, we have a great help for it, but it's not one of our 1 minute wonders. Tinnitus is another one that I've had not very good results with. It's not one of our 1 minute wonders. Okay. But the point is to know right where you're coming from. But I'm trying to think of if there's anybody in the world that could not benefit from using EFT someplace in their life.
I can't think of anybody in particular.
Okay. Well, there may be somebody.
Yeah.
But we have a response back here.
A lot of people would say if you're not willing to change, then it doesn't matter what tool you use. You could be the finest surgeon, but if you're not willing to change, nothing's going to work. How would you address that?
Well, that's something that Dr. Callahan addressed very early in my discussions with him. He said, you know who says that is not the client. It's the therapist who can't make any headway with them. They're not willing to change. We have to excuse it somehow or other. The person, we worked with them in it, but they're not willing to change. They're not willing to do what they need to do, and so on and so on and so on and so forth. I think the only willingness that you need for most people is the willingness to do the tapping. Now, can you get better results if you're really in sync with them and got a lot of reports there? Yeah, probably. But can you get good results even if they're just sitting there going through the motions? Probably so as well. Maybe not as deep a work is all. But that's, yeah, think about it. The people who say that phrase about they're not willing is the therapist, who has been unsuccessful typically. Right from Roger Callahan. Okay. Well, I was talking about some essentials here, some things that we need, to be a successful marketer. You need to have a validly priced product. At least in EFT's case, we certainly have it because it's, we can't find anybody who would ask for who would give their result back in exchange for the money they paid. We need product congruence about it. If you don't have product congruence, you're probably not going to sell it well anyway, okay? And I want to emphasize there, the product congruence it's product congruence within you and your experience at it. Somebody brand new at it is going to have different product congruence than somebody who's been at it for a number of years, okay? The more you're at it, the more experience you have, the more product congruence you have, the more you know what it will do and won't do, very important, what it will do and won't do, at least in your experience. That may change as time goes on because you may find it'll do more and more things, but then of course your product congruence would shift, but it's always got to be coming from what you validly believe it will or won't do. Write this down, if you will. I'm going to ask you a question, and then if you would, please write down your response to it. What prevents you from having an even more roaring business? What's roaring? Roaring means good, abundant. Well, for anybody who's in business would answer that question. Anybody who's in business would answer that question. I'm aiming at therapists, yes, but anybody in business could answer the question. All right. Let's go back to Dan. I'm going to ask you the question, okay? No, it's right here, Dan.
Oh, I thought you said Dan. Dan.
Yeah.
I have some major blocks with my upbringing of thinking that helping people shouldn't be well paid.
Oh, okay. Rather a standard belief, by the way. Rather a standard belief in this profession. Okay. All right. I see you nodding your head. What did you write down?
Exactly. I really feel like, making people happy and healthy ought to be a gift that's freely given.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it would be difficult even to charge any amount. I mean, anything would seem like it's too much, unless somebody was able and more than able to pay for something that no one else could deliver. But then, even then, I'd say, but if I'm the one who was given the gift of delivery, then how can I possibly say, you owe me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yet you have given them something that is so valuable that it's worth far more in financial terms than you've charged for it. We've already covered that in most cases.
Except it's a belief system.
I know. I absolutely know that.
And how do you break that?
Yeah, I don't. See, you can have the greatest product in the world, and you can have all the product congruence in the world, but if you also have business blocks, those kind of beliefs, you ain't going no place, okay? Very important. Let's go over here to Emmett. What did you write down, Emmett?
Keeping my motivation going. It's related to ADD, and I have had success using EFT on myself for some of the symptomology of ADD.
Okay, good.
But part of the problem with ADD is every day is like a new beginning. It's not that you get involved in a project and keep on going, over 3 months.
Yes.
So it's an ongoing motivating every day to keep on going EFT hasn't worked on yet for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we need to get back to the core issue on that. Why, you go back to parents and child and all that kind of stuff. But we have,
She's calling.
Who's calling me? Oh, I'm okay. All right. Ask this gentleman back here.
I wrote down that if people could experience the results of my work, I'm not a therapist.
Okay.
I'm in advertising, by the way.
Okay, sure, okay.
But if I could get them to see it, that then more work would come my way.
Okay, and what prevents you from getting them to see it?
I'm scared.
Scared of what?
Scared to go out there, scared to deal with people.
Okay. Do we have an EFT-able issue, do we not?
Yes.
And it probably launches off some stuff in the background, old beliefs that came from parents and so on. I call it the writing on your walls in the Palace of Possibilities, but that's where that all comes from. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to ask you, Carol. Wait.
I wrote down faith in myself.
Okay, and that's kind of a broad, that's a fairly broad thing, okay? But you say faith in yourself as a therapist? Faith in yourself as someone able to deliver? Faith in what way?
Probably all of the above.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, interestingly enough, if you have the world's greatest product and you have product congruence, Let me ask you a question. If you truly have product congruence, is it difficult not to have faith in what you can do?
Yeah.
Is it? Well, that's a debatable subject. That's a debatable subject. Because if I'm thinking about myself personally, if I have absolute product congruence, look out. Because the faith follows from that. The faith follows from that. Let's go back to Carol for a second. I want to ask you a question. Suppose, see, gold right now is priced at about $257 an ounce. Okay? Mm-hmm. Just take that, okay, as true. Suppose I were to say to you, Carol, you can now, if you want to, go out and sell gold for $10 an ounce, okay, legitimately. Go to people and say, you can buy all the gold you want for $10 an ounce. Would you go sell it?
I'd still have a hard time.
You still have a hard time. Okay, all right. So there's some very EFT-able money block issues in there behind that. We're not going to get into all at the moment, okay? But you can hear that, can you not? And I think just about everybody here has something like that. In fact, all of us have money blocks, myself included, okay? It's about getting any better still, okay? Okay. The essentials to market. You need a validly priced product. You need product congruence. You need to EFT any abundance blocks you have, and I probably should have put that first. Although even if you have abundance blocks, you still are going to need a validly priced product and product congruence, okay? And then you need an ethical way to market, and underline the word ethical, you see. Because that goes along with product congruence and all that. An ethical way to market it, okay? Now, here's a phrase that you need to tattoo on the inside of your eyelids so you always see it every time you blink, okay? It's always there. It's a phrase, if you're going to be successful in marketing, you just simply have to know it, and it has to be a part of your very essence in your soul. That's always ask the marketplace, okay? Always ask the marketplace. Now let's talk about, and listen to its answer, but let's talk about what that means for a moment. If I'm going to run an ad, let's say I run an ad, and the ad says, okay, the ad says, great therapist in town, great new therapist in town, rapid relief for almost anything, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, phone, so and so and so and so, okay? That's my ad. I put it in a newspaper, okay? And I get 2 responses. 2 people call. 2. Okay? And I thought, well, that's not really enough. I mean, the ad cost me so much money. I got 2 people, and only one of those is really interested after I talked to him on the phone. Okay. What would be here? We're going to need a microphone for somebody. I'm going to ask you. Okay. What would be what is your response to that? You have put this ad in that I just said. Okay, and now hardly anybody responds. What are your thoughts about the ad?
What did they say wrong, or who did I catch with the words I used?
What did they say wrong? What did they say, or you say?
What did I say wrong?
What did you say
at the
wrong,
end?
or
to catch the people that I wanted to
Did you catch the people you wanted to catch? Okay. Ask Myron here. What would you? What is your response to this ad that didn't work?
What did I do wrong?
What did I do wrong? Okay. Ask Kathy's response, would you?
I guess, how could I change it to make it better?
Oh, okay. I love your answers, by the way. I love your answers. You must have been reading my material ahead of time. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were asking for, like, if I were to read it, what it would.
No, I'm asking you. You're the one who put it out there, and now you're getting this stinky response. Okay. What is your reaction to it? What's your self-talk about it?
Oh, just probably serves me right for trying to do anything to begin with.
Okay. All right. And that, by the way, that's a legitimate, often thought of response. I put it out there. Serves me right. I spent all this money. Blew it. Whatever. You had a response, did you?
Well, I first would wonder if the ad was worded properly, and then I'd wonder if it's reaching the people I want to reach.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's
Okay.
a good vehicle.
All right, Tom.
Advertising doesn't work.
Advertising doesn't work. Okay. Now, the response that response is rather typical, by the way.
Yep.
I put the ad out, and it's either like advertising doesn't work or these people don't get it.
I'm going to write that down too.
Okay. These people don't get it is one. This is the wrong community to do this with. These people aren't new age enough, or they're too new age, or whatever you want to say about it. You know.
Rochester's too conservative.
Rochester's too conservative. Yes, all of that. But the reality is, the market. You just ask the marketplace a question. You put an ad in. You ask the marketplace, and what you really asked them was, "How do you like this ad?" And they said, right? See, the marketplace is your best friend. Write that down. The marketplace is your best friend. Why? Because only your best friend will tell you if you have bad breath. Okay? And the marketplace tells you you have bad breath by ignoring you. They say, we don't like your ad. It didn't do anything for me. It was a zero ad, okay? I don't like that thing, okay? And so they're just not interested. And they told you that in no uncertain terms. They didn't bandy around with their words or anything like that, okay? They didn't do any of that. They just absolutely told you, this ad doesn't cut it, okay? And that's what you need to hear. Not advertising doesn't work, and so on and so on. So what you need to do is go back and change that. Now, we're going to talk about ads in a minute, but I wanted to make this point that you always ask the marketplace. Always, always, always. And at that, we're going to take, it is now break time. All right, I was asked on a few occasions in the last few minutes over this break about our blocks, you know, towards money abundance and what we might do about that, and can we EFT them? Can we have a session on that and so on? I don't know why not. I'm going to have to be a little general as we do this in group, of course, because I don't know exactly what your issues are, so I'm going to have to kind of pull out from intuition, if you will, what we might tap on, but there's no reason why we couldn't just roll on. But before we do that, where's our microphone people? Let me ask you just a quick thing in. What stops you from doing business well? First answer.
Fear
of
that I don't deserve.
Okay. What about you?
Lack of self-confidence.
Lack of self-confidence. Okay.
Don't want to work that hard.
Don't want to work that hard. Okay. By the way, let me stop there for a second. Okay. He doesn't want to work that hard. Okay. Let me just launch off that for a second. Who wants to work hard? That's a serious question. I do not work hard. I don't want to work hard. The last thing I want to do personally is work hard. Who in the hell wants to work hard? I'm serious. Well, whoever over there wants to work hard, they can work hard. Okay? I'm very serious about that. I do not want to work hard. And let me suggest something about working hard and the general way that therapy professions and healing professions are run. They are run in a manner, and I'm generalizing here, like everybody else runs it. That is, you set up your shingle, so to speak, you put your ad in the yellow pages or whatever, and you charge so much an hour for people to come in, visit with you, and that's how you earn your living, okay? But you are limited, with quotes around it, something like what Chris said to me, because this is what everybody else is charging. You charge, if you charge too much, well, who's going to come and see you? You charge too little, well, you're not good enough, okay, whatever. So you tend to think we need to charge a certain amount and work so many hours. Well, if you're going to charge X dollars an hour, the only way you're going to make a lot of money is to work a lot of hours. And when you're working with some difficult clients, some of which aren't even able to pay you, and so on and so forth, that's a lot of time spent, a lot of energy comes out sometimes with some of these people and so on, and it's a lot of hard work, and you don't want to work that hard, okay? I don't either. I really don't, okay? And I'm not asking you to work hard. There's other ways to go about it, and we're going to explore that some, okay? But anyway, I want to ask the question again. What keeps you from a roaring business?
Fear, I'm not good enough.
Fear that you're not good enough. That you wouldn't be able to deliver the result.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Well, I have that, but I do know I have this anti-business thing.
Oh,
you know,
yeah?
that I don't know if I look down on people that try to make money or what. It's very ingrained. It's been there a long time.
Yes, yes, yes. And I will guarantee you almost everybody has some writing on their walls, if you will, which we will discuss at another presentation called Palace of Possibilities, which echoes that a lot, okay? Go ahead.
Well, I'm trying to get into school systems. So I'm not worth the money I'm going to have to charge to train the people there to do what I want to do.
That's one possible belief. Another would be, oh, they don't have enough money to pay me.
That's the other. That's another one. Yes.
Sure, sure. And another part of all of that could be something like, well, okay, I'm in a profession that just doesn't pay well. That's all there is to it.
Yes, I taught for 25 years.
Okay, all right. I don't mean just the teaching profession. I mean the healing profession.
Oh,
it's one
the
that just
teaching profession too.
Yeah, it's one
And
that
the
just
healing.
doesn't. Yeah, but the healing profession just doesn't pay well.
That's correct.
Okay, tell Deepak Chopra that.
Yeah.
Tell Wayne Dyer that.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay? Tell Joyce Brothers that. Okay? Tell Tony Robbins that. Okay? Tell lots of people that. There are tons of people making lots of money in the healing profession.
Then there's the fear that I would wind up being in the public eye as you are at this particular moment. I don't mind working in front of groups, but I also don't want the responsibility of showing people the way. I don't want to be the bearer along the way. That's a big fear of mine.
Okay. All tappable, by the way.
Yeah.
And they're very expensive. God, are they expensive. I mean, they're tremendously expensive, okay? All right. Here, wait, we have a comment back here. Then we're going to do a little EFT session here, okay? Let's really get back here if we can. Take a little while to get the mic over there.
I'm not a therapist, but I know some.
You're in advertising,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah.
And with some people in the healing profession, there's an issue of they themselves aren't doing the healing. You know, it's coming from the universe.
Yes.
And therefore...
I say that myself. It happens through me, not by me.
And how do they deserve money in that case? It should be a free service.
Sure. Well, the other nice little belief we can have is money is abundant like everything else. Money is just energy. It's just love. That's all it is, you know. Instead of having some big issue about it, okay?
Okay.
All right. One more here, and then we're going to do a little tapping, folks. Okay?
When I was working as a midwife 20 years ago, there were lay midwives that worked and they wouldn't get any payment, and that they might get a cabbage or a chook or something like that given to them for someone attending their birth. And we were charging at that time $200 for the whole confinement, which was like about $4 an hour, which my cleaning lady actually earned more than I did, and I had the responsibility of life and death. And I suddenly realised that if I went down to Mr. Safeway, he wouldn't say, "What a lovely person you've been this week, Chris. You've delivered 2 babies. I'll give you 2 cabbages." They didn't say that. They said, "Give us the money, or we won't give you any food."
Yes.
So we sort of thought, well, we're more valuable than that. But coming out of nursing, where nurses in Australia are not valued, it was hard for us to put a value on ourselves. But finally we did. And when I retired last year, it was $2,000 for me to come and deliver you a baby, which was fairly expensive, because you can get it free in the public system.
Sure.
So we made a shift, but it took a lot of work to do that. It took a lot of work to do that, but we did it. If that's any help to anybody.
Sure. And let me respond to that a little bit. I want to respond before we do some of this tapping about being in a profession where we're doing healing and it's doing through us, not by us. There's a spiritual aspect to it and all this other thing. So why do we get involved with the money world? Because it has all this aura about it of greed and self-interest and so on and so on and so forth. One of the things you can do, this is just a matter of opening your minds to the opportunities and the possibilities, okay? Is you can either work with the rich people, we were talking about working with corporations here in a little bit. They got lots of money. They need what you're doing because these employees, they have headaches and migraines and they have emotional issues and stomach upset, all kinds of stuff, and they take time off work. I mean, you can help them but they have whole departments, to help with this, and you can do as well as the whole department in many cases, okay? I'm serious about that. I'm very serious about that. So you can either shift your business to go where the money is, so to speak, and sports is another one, or if what you really want to do is to help the, let's call them the disadvantaged for the moment, those who could not pay, and you want to do it in a very spiritual way, although you can do it very spiritually. I don't care if you're in the sports world or other. It's an inside job, whether you're spiritual or not, okay? It's all connection with people. By the way, is it kind of non-spiritual to have the attitude that somebody who makes a lot of money somehow is greedy? Just think about that for a moment. You know, it's a judgment, is it not? You know, in a second. Okay. But the one thing you can do is you can go to these charitable foundations that have billions of dollars in them. I mean, there's zillions and gazillions of these all over the place, and they are funded by the super wealthy, if you will, to help the needy. That's what they're there for. They have whole staffs that they're looking for, you know, places to properly put these funds, okay? So we can help the disadvantaged in the so-and-so town of whatever, in the school system and wherever it is over here, and anybody else who needs help. That's what they're designed for. You have a tool that you could go in there with, and you could get big-time funding if you can convince the right people, and you could expand yourself mightily and still draw a really nice salary out of it, and do all the spiritual things and everything else. That's another possibility, is it not? Now, you may not know how to do that, and you may have some self-talk that says, oh, I don't know anybody, where would I get connected, they won't believe me. Yeah, I mean, you can run all those tapes all you want, but the reality is the opportunity is certainly there. It's absolutely there, okay? Tap with me, okay? Even though I have all these money blocks. And the whole thing is an inside job. It's a fiction. It's a novel. And I didn't even write most of the novel. It was written by my parents and my teachers and my religious leaders and my peers and all the other people who know nothing about money. They've been telling me what it amounts to, how much I should have, how much I should not have, whether it's spiritual or not. They've got all these beliefs. They wrote them all on my walls in big writing. I've been reading them ever since and paying attention to them and bowing to them. All those blocks. 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 Now let me think here a second. Even though somewhere in my perception, there's something wrong with earning a lot of money. It's interesting that somewhere else within my perception, there's something wrong with earning too little money. I'm going to be judged by other people if I make too much money, whatever too much money is. And I'm going to be judged by other people if I make too little money, I'm also being judged right now for some people, by some people, for how much I earn now. I'm not judging anybody else this way myself, of course. I don't look at somebody who's really poor and say, oh, well, get off your butt and work. And I don't look at somebody who's really rich and say, oh, you just had to be greedy to get there. You had to step on people. You know, you didn't take any real risks or anything. It was just given to you somehow. And even if it wasn't given to you, you got it by ill-gotten means. Because you're not spiritual. 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 Oh, let me think a minute more, okay? Are we having fun? Are we hitting bullseyes, by the way? Okay. Can we do that again? What is that? I don't know what that is. Oh, tap. Double, if you want to, yeah, if you want to. But let me think here a second. Okay, here we go. Even though I somehow separate, money from loving pursuits, I may be ignoring the entire thought that money is just a form of energy. Money itself is nothing. It's what people do with it that matters. I wonder what I would do with all this money if I had millions and millions and millions and millions. Would I just simply be greedy? Or might I find ways to use it to help this world? It doesn't matter what somebody else does with their money. It only matters how I judge them for what I think they do. And it matters what I do with the money. Blocks for abundance. Blocks for money abundance. Blocks for not allowing true abundance to come to me. Blocks for thinking money isn't really just energy. Blocks for imbuing money with evil thoughts. The love of money is the root of all evil. I believe that with all of my heart. I happen to love money but won't tell anybody. And I wish I had a whole lot more of it so I could be more evil. And more spiritual. Yeah, so I could be more spiritual. Yeah. No matter what they think. Yeah, thank you very much. Amen. All right. Now, I purposely did that quite generally, as you know. Chances are we took the edge off some things. And by the way, notice we did that with a little humor. And it's very useful. It's very useful sometimes to take a look at some of our beliefs and look at the humorous side of it. You know, the stuff we do about money is just a joke. If we really sat down, we're going to do some of that, you know, in the Palace of Possibilities. But I'm sorry. Yeah, we need a microphone here if we can.
We did so much tapping there. It's really interesting. You know, what if we didn't tap and we just thought the intention? What would happen?
Thought the intention of what?
All those things.
All those things?
We did that without.
You know, I don't know the answer to that question, Gary. What comes up for me is the conversations I've had that go along with, well, okay, we're seeing more and more and more that intention, you know, is a material player in the healing. However, long before the tapping and energy work came along, people had intention. I mean, somebody come in and say, well, I want to get over my fear of whatever, and if I was a therapist, I would have the intention of helping them.
That's right.
And my technique, by the way, was to use talk therapy, for example, and get insights and all of that. But that doesn't really, I mean, it's not very consistent in getting that job done. So the answer to your question is, I would guess, probably not. I think it's the advent of addressing somebody as an energy system. And by the way, I tend to equate that energy system with spiritual. I use the same terms interchangeably, a spiritual system or energy system, okay? It's only with the realization that we're addressing them in that way that our intention seems to take hold better, okay? That's just an observation I have. I doubt if you're just going to sit there and say, well, I now intend, without doing something in an energetic way to balance out, redirect or whatever, you know, our energy or spirituality around that, okay? The day may come, however, when we will develop the ability for like you and I to talk, and like you were the client, you know, and I was the healer, so to speak, that I would be able to do it all through intention, never tap you at all. We would have what you would consider to be, you know, true healing, true therapy, real therapy, you know, talk therapy or something like that. And all the time I'm, with my intention, I'm straightening out your energy system as we tune into the various things. I think that's going to come someday. I think that's one of the levels out there. But we're a ways away from doing that consistently now. We have a question back there.
You seem to have done that, though, the intention work, when you described yesterday the scene on the jet plane.
Yeah, and I also described that while I did that, and that was 5 out of 5,
Right.
okay, and that was impressive to me,
Right.
I also failed, if you will. I stubbed my toe. It did not work, with the lady I was having breakfast with, okay?
Yeah.
And so the question is, not can we do it? I'm convinced we can do it. The question more is, how do we do it? And I think that's when we really step into the spiritual end of things. We're going to have to let God be in our playpen, or Creator be in our playpen, or spirituality, or universe, or whatever you want to call it, be in our playpen someplace. And so that healing can happen through us rather than by us. Very important thing to me. I think that's a phrase that will ring into the next level of all of this. Okay, that's my guess. Okay. How are we doing time-wise? Okay. Now, what I'd like to do is talk about some of the mechanics of building a business, okay, and getting clientele, et cetera. And I want to start off with something really simple. I mean, the simplicity of this is remarkable, and yet hardly anybody ever does it, okay? I was giving a talk on marketing, actually, a few years ago to a group of investment salespeople. And, I was about an hour into it, and we were talking about how to prospect. That's one of their biggest things. They sell investments, and they want to know how to get more clients, and the prospecting thing. And so you may not call it, as therapists, you may not call it prospecting, but it's the same kind of thing. It's how to get clients in the door, how to get people interested, so you can do business in the first place. And so this was the question I asked them, and as I'm asking them this question, I'm asking you to respond to it, if you will. Suppose when you first started business so many years ago, that everybody you met, whether you did business with them or not, you put them on a list. And once a month or once a quarter, you send them a little newsletter. Here's a newsletter from Sue Donaldson, okay? And the newsletter doesn't even have to say, I'm a great therapist and I take care of this problem and that problem, the other problem. It doesn't have to say that at all. Could, doesn't have to. Suppose it just had some really nicely well done inspirational stories on it. Or some nice, clean, funny humor on it. Just a little one-pager. And your friend who gets this, let's just say once a quarter, once a month, something like that. Every time they get it, they say, oh, this is from Sue Donaldson. Oh, yeah, I remember she writes these really nice, or she puts these really nice inspirational stories in there, so I want to read this, okay? Or she has this little sayings column. I like those little sayings, so I'll read the little sayings. Or this is the joke section over here, and so this, it's a good sense of humor, They may not even read it all, okay? But everybody you meet, whether they're a client, friend, or anybody else, is on your list, all right? And you send it out. When they get that, every time they get that, they get a nice little positive thing from Sue Donaldson, okay? And it says, oh, here's Sue Donaldson in my mailbox. Let me read. So they think nice things about Sue Donaldson, okay? Now, as time goes on, are you building rapport? Yeah, you are. Are you building name recognition? Okay? And if you happen to have, even if you don't put things about, let's say, psychotherapy or whatever your business may be on there, and there's nothing wrong with it. There are maybe some licensing boards. The only reason I back up on this, there's some licensing board I understand you might frown on that or something, so I'm backing off. But I would at least put some headline underneath there that would say something about what kind of business I'm in. Okay, people would know that anyway, that they're getting it from you. And I might also include there an actual case history that I was doing. I had somebody come in that was really beset with a Vietnam War memory, and they couldn't sleep, and so on and so forth. And we did this, and they went back to their doctor, and the doctor took them off the medication, and you can tell these stories over and over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, but the thing about it is, as you keep doing that, as you keep building your list, and you keep sending this out, you are building a big-time clientele. You're building name recognition. You're doing it consistently. And so what I asked these investment people, I said, suppose you've done that ever since you started. How long have you been in business? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Yeah. How many people would be on your list now? Oh, zillions, more than I could pay postage for, okay? I said, yeah. I said, let me ask you a question. If you had that list, would you ever have to do a cold call again? And they looked at me and said, no. Because every single person on that list is a warm call, isn't it? They know your name. They've seen it over and over again in a positive way. You know, they like you, you know. And so you have entrees now to all of these people. Especially if you're a psychotherapist, and especially if you are allowed to talk about your case histories, which you can, of course, disguise so that nobody knows who they are. You know, you need to do that, of course. Other people will see this newsletter. Other people will see it. And they'll pass it on to their corporate head, for example. And if it's a quality, well done one, okay? And as it proliferates and goes on, that one tool all by itself becomes the centerpiece, and it's very simple to do, of a major business, especially with computers nowadays. You can just crank this thing out. You can do it in color, you know, on a color printer. The addressing all happens that once you set it up right. The addressing all happens automatically, and so on it goes. You know. And if you ask about the cost of it and say, well, I mean, my budget, I don't know if I can send out 10,000 of these things or something every month or every quarter. You don't have to do that. Start off with a couple of hundred. That doesn't cost very much. Or 500, that doesn't cost very much. Even 500 is a lot of people. And if you want, if then, see, now you have 500 people, or you have 1,000 people, or you have 8,000 people. Suppose what you wanted to do was to introduce your community to, let's say, EFT or some other technique that you think would be worthwhile. Could you not put that out on your newsletter to several thousand people and say, by the way, on so-and-so a date at 7 o'clock in the evening, we're going to have a free or a low cost or whatever it is introduction to so-and-so, and this is what you might expect. How many people do you think would show up? You don't know how many's going to show up yet, do you? But let me tell you something. From a marketing point of view, the percentage of people that will show up that already know you is substantially higher than a cold letter out to the community saying, hey, everybody, I'm going to give this thing. They don't know you from a load of snow. You know, they don't know anything about you. But if you send it out to your newsletter, people come. Now, who do you know that does a newsletter? Good. I don't know who said that, but whoever it was, give them the microphone, okay? Who said that? You said that, okay.
Gary Craig.
Yeah. We don't call it a newsletter, do we? It's called an email forum, right? But you know how many people I have on my list? 1,600 people. 1,600 people are on the list. Isn't that interesting? Okay. So if I want to run a workshop someplace, do I have to send out cold mailings to a lot of people? No. No, I have a built-in list. People tune into what we're saying. I put my own stuff out there, other people's stuff, and so on and so forth. People like it. We get very few people to drop off. Very few people. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. Let me tell you what I've done there. I have asked the marketplace, haven't I, what worked for the email list? And the marketplace has told me what you're doing is fine. Because I put some stuff out, and I get some feedback once in a while. I say, hey, okay, and I pay attention to the marketplace. And so what I've done is I have tended over time to give the marketplace what they're asking for, okay? And that's why it grows. Isn't that interesting? It's a newsletter. And the interesting thing about an email newsletter is there's no postage. It's free. It's absolutely free. Is anybody's wheels turning here? Go ahead. Back here with Maxine, please.
I'm involved in a not-for-profit, nonprofit mailing, and we have to have like 200 bulk mailing. But if you've got, even for-profit mailing, I think if you have bulk mailing, you can get a discount with the U.S. Post Office.
Yes, you can do that. Tell you something else you can do. You can go to your local dentist or doctor or chiropractor or anybody else in your field, okay, that might like to have some promotion, if you will, might like to have their name out there. And you say, hey, I'm doing my little newsletter here. And, I could put a little section in here about, Dr. Jones and his dentistry. We won't even call it an ad. I'll do a little write-up on it because you're my dentist and I happen to like you, and I happen to think you can do a good job. So you do a nice little thing in there. And ask them, would you mind, paying for part of our postage? They'd do it in a second if they understand business at all. Because let me tell you why that's very valuable to that dentist, we'll call him, okay? That is valuable if they understand it, because this mailing isn't going to go out to a blind list. This is going to go out to Maxine's list. This means those people who are going to read it are going to read it because it's from Maxine, their friend, and somebody they've known. And by you putting this down, that's an endorsement from Maxine, is it not? That's a very, very valuable ad, extremely valuable piece of promotion, okay? And for them to contribute all or part of the postage, you know, a worthwhile or a valid request. Now, does that make sense? So this business is really common sense. Now, if they had a newsletter, or some other organization you know has a newsletter, ask them what it would cost to take an 8.5 by 11 insert of your newsletter in with theirs, and then they send it out, they pay the postage and everything, and you pay some amount for that to go out, less than what the postage would be. And it would go out to a much wider audience than you're now using. You see how that can grow? Does that make sense?